I want to quickly talk to you about importing from Mexico to the US for cheap. So, in today's conversation, I'll be sharing with you a few tips, a few hacks on how to really navigate the whole import export process, again, from Mexico to the US for cheap in a very cost effective manner. Okay. So, here are the details I want you to think about. I mean, even though Mexico is a neighboring country to the US, actually importing from Mexico to the US is not really that easy. Okay. It really requires knowledge of regulations, taxes, and trade agreements like USMCA. Okay. Now you also you gotta really comply with CBP requirements. CBP, that's a cross-border. This is actually the Customs and Border Protection Agency, part of Homeland Security. Okay, and so you got to really understand how the CBP works, what the regulations are. You have to really understand also how to calculate taxes and fees. That's important because again, even though Mexico is just next door, it's just not that easy. You can't just go and buy stuff and just come here and just sell in this country and that's it. No, you also have to you have to understand restricted items and documentation. Okay, so this is important to really understand that you have an area of regulations to pay attention to. But the cool thing is that Mexico is really growing every single year in terms of trading partnership with the U.S. Okay, it's actually one of the top trading partners of the United States based on import value at over 475 billion. Can you imagine that? 475 billion. Actually, that's the first one because a lot of folks think, well, it's China, it's Canada. No, no, no. It's Mexico first, second China, and third Canada. So that's really an important element to think about. Okay, so when you think about the USMCA trade agreements, you really have Mexico being on top in terms of trade volume, in terms of import volume. So if you want to really seize an opportunity in that market, it's important to really understand that you want to focus on regulations. There is a complex web of regulations, taxes, and procedures designed to ensure compliance with both countries' laws. It's not just the U.S. having those strict laws. No, it's also Mexico because Mexico just wants to make sure. I mean that they are controlling what's coming out of their country too. So here are the requirements I want you to pay attention to. First of all, if you want to import from Mexico to the US for cheap, you have to familiarize yourself with CBP. I spoke to you a little earlier about it, but yet this agency is critical because Customs and Border Protection plays a pivotal role in regulating imports into the US, safeguarding against prohibited and restricted items, and ensuring that all merchandise complies with US laws. Again, the CBP actually is part of Homeland Security, okay? And so here is an agency, a government agency, that enforces regulations on a wide array of goods, from alcoholic beverages to planes, ensuring that restricted items are correctly identified and managed according to specific guidelines. So if you are going to import from Mexico to the U.S. and you might be thinking about importing restricted items, then you have to really understand that you have a more complex web of regulations to deal with because you have to correctly identify and manage those restricted items. Very important. You also, so besides CBP, you also have to familiarize yourself now when it comes to calculating taxes and fees. So import activities are subject to various taxes and fees, including excise tax and local taxes, which can significantly affect the overall cost of importation, right, from Mexico again into the US. So besides this, beside the fees and taxes, other fees might include customs duties and border protection fees, which are really calculated based on the value, the quantity, and the type of merchandise you're importing from Mexico into the U.S. So bottom line here is that if you are trying to avoid any surprise, you want to really you want the process to be very smooth. Understand the charges that CBP, among others, are charging are actually applying to your business, so that you can actually budget. Like you can do your budgeting and financial planning like a lot better. Because the whole thing is that chances are, if you are importing from Mexico into the U.S., you are a business, okay, and so you have to think about financial planning, your cash inflows, cash outflows. The bottom line is you do not want the whole importation process to eat too much into your balance sheet. The thing is, if you want to import from Mexico to the into the U.S., you might want to think about actually having a shipping partner, because the whole thing is that you can do it yourself. Don't get me wrong, you can do it yourself, but sometimes it just helps a lot better to actually go through a shipping partner who has experience already doing this kind of work. Okay, so you have all kinds of shipping partners. You can have shipping software. You can have a shipping partner. You can have a 3PL, third party logistics partner. You can have a 2PL logistic partner. You can have all kinds of operators when it comes to shipping. But the cool thing is you want to have somebody who has experience dealing with the Mexican markets, but also with the American market. It's not just about, oh, I want to find a 3PL partner in Mexico and that's it. No, you want to find a 3PL partner in Mexico who understands the U.S. market and vice versa. You can find a 3PL, like a shipping partner in the States, who also understand the Mexican market, because you are buying the stuff from Mexico and importing into the U.S. So you are navigating between those two markets. Okay, so this is kind of cool. The bottom line here is what you want to really have a clear idea about cost. You want to have a clear idea about things like landed cost, all the fees, custom fees, but also you want to adhere to the de minimis regulations. So that's an important element to think about. Now, there is an impact of excise tax and local taxes to also account for if you are thinking about importing from Mexico to the U.S. for cheap. So, excise taxes are levied on specific goods such as alcoholic beverages, and can vary widely depending on the product and country of origin. So, when it comes to the U.S. and Mexico, basically, though the excise taxes are pretty straightforward, they're pretty set too. The thing is that every now and then the U.S. government actually refines and updates those excise taxes. But hey, listen, it is what it is, and you also need to account for local taxes. Local taxes may apply, further influencing the cost structure of imported goods from Mexico into the U.S. And you need to account for these taxes to ensure accurate pricing and compliance, especially if you are going to sell your products to an American audience. Now, let me talk to you now about the USMCA trade agreements, and this is actually kind of critical. If you are going to import from Mexico to the US for cheap, you want to really familiarize yourself once again with the USMCA set of regulations. So, USMCA stands for United States Mexico Canada Agreement, USMCA, and this agreement began on July 1st, 2020, and like a little bit before COVID started. Okay. And so the USMCA is a modernization of the NAFTA, so the North American Free Trade Agreement, in effect from 1992. So when you look at the USMCA, think of it as an upgraded version of NAFTA. So trade agreements like the USMCA offer pathways for reducing or even eliminating certain duties and taxes on imports. Okay. And these agreements can significantly impact the economy of importation, making products more competitive in the market. Okay, and utilizing such agreements requires a thorough understanding of their criteria, including country of origin requirements and tariff codes. So, if you are importing from Mexico to the U.S. and you want to do it for free, I mean, for not for free, but for cheap, you really have to again make sure that you understand a little bit about those subtleties. So you also have to think about formal entries and import documentation. So for shipments above a certain value, formal entries are required. And this process involves detailed documentation, including a bill of lading. You got to have that all the time, commercial invoice, and the customs declaration form. And accurate completion of these documents actually is essential for a smooth customs clearance process. And also if you want to avoid delays, because the thing is that CBP is going through a certain protocol to inspect all the goods that are coming into this country. So if you want them to leave you alone, quote unquote, leave you alone, not bother you, then you want to really follow regulations, because otherwise, they would just sit on your orders or on your shipments, and they will sit in there at a CBP facility Now let's talk about restricted items and regulations. I mean, when you are importing from Mexico into the U.S. and you want to do it for cheap, you got to really address restricted items and regulations. Now the thing is that certain items are restricted or prohibited from import due to safety, health, or environmental concerns. So, alcoholic beverages require specific licenses and permits, while plants may be subject to, let's say, quarantine and inspection to prevent the spread of pests and diseases. So, compliance with this regulations is sort of mandatory if you want to avoid penalties not only from CBP but also from other federal agencies like FDA, for instance. Okay, so it's all about making sure that you navigate the whole maze of regulations pretty clearly, and you know which items need a further declaration. Like you got to be more granular, and which items are pretty straightforward in terms of declaration. So that's an important element. So, for instance, if you know you're going to import alcoholic beverages into this country for sale. I mean, not for. I mean, everything I'm telling you, this is not for personal consumption, though. No, if you are doing this in an economic transaction point of view, then that means what? That means that you need to really make sure that you comply with the laws with the applicable laws. One thing for sure, if you have any question, just let us know in the comment section, and basically, one of our team members will get back to you and explain to you things further, especially depending on the specific item that you are trying to import into this country. Also, one thing for sure, you can also think about using customs brokers for actually smooth operations. I mean, this actually is kind of logical because it is pretty similar to the comment I made a little earlier about having a shipping partner. It's all about outsourcing things where you're not good at, things you don't have time for, or things where you will need extra expertise. So customs brokers can facilitate the import process from Mexico to the U.S., helping you as a business navigate customs regulations, prepare necessary documentation, and liaise with government agencies, including CBP. And their expertise can be invaluable, especially for businesses new to importing or dealing with complex shipments. So overall, when you think about importing from Mexico into the U.S., you really have to really understand that the opportunity is there. The economy is booming. The trade volume is booming. I told you a little earlier that Mexico is the U.S. The U.S. is number one partner. Everybody thinks it's China, but no, it's actually Mexico. You're looking at 475 billion worth of trade volume. That's huge. That's nearly half a trillion. Okay, so that really is good because if you want to tap into, you can actually tap into this economic bonanza to actually make some money also. But it's important to understand that you have to have a clear idea of the importation process for your specific product, because see, the importation process for every single product is different. So depending on your specific product, you might have to register with even the authorities in Mexico and also the authorities in the states. So depending on the nature of your product, okay. So you got to really understand that. You got to understand the importation process. You have to understand the taxes that apply to your specific products, because some products require more taxes. It is what it is. You got to think about customs regulations. Customs regulations are really important, especially for certain products, and also trade agreements and logistics management. So that's kind of important from a regulatory point of view. Sorry about this. So what I'm trying to say here is that if you want to have a clear idea about how the process works, you got to start a little early, and don't actually hesitate to actually enlist the help of a third party, because this will help you sort of streamline the whole process. Okay, and the third party, you can have a shipping partner for instance, and you can also use shipping software to streamline the whole process. Or you can reach out to a customs broker. I mean, you want to have a customs broker who understands everything about importation from Mexico into the U.S. Right? It's all about having somebody with a proven track record. Now, when you think about importing from Mexico to the U.S., you have to really understand that the cost of importing goods from that country depends on various factors like the product type, the shipping, and the duties, right? So I can't really sit here and tell you a definite answer based on your product because I don't know your product, the product that you are actually are importing. And so import from Mexico may not be duty free. So you want to check the specific tariff rate for your product. Even though you have the USMCA agreement in place, it doesn't mean that you are going to import from Mexico to the US and not paying anything. No, there are actually there are some tariff. Now, how do you import produce from Mexico? Well, it's important to understand that produce is part of it's something perishable, right? So importing produce from Mexico requires following regulations and obtaining necessary permits, not only in Mexico but also in the States. Anytime you talk about something perishable, anytime you navigate this realm of health products, because food is a health product. That's how the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, thinks about it. So food is a health product. So they want to make sure that you are following regulations, applicable regulations. So when you think about Mexico's, what are the top five imports? Well, Mexico's top five imports include machinery, vehicles, electronics, mineral fuels, and plastics. So if you are interested in, like, if you want to import from Mexico to the U.S., maybe you might want to be in those top five niches, if you will. Now, there are actually you got to really be aware of the concept of illegal imports. So an illegal import is any good brought into this country, the U.S., without the required declaration or a permit. And there are some items there are basically illegal to import into the U.S. So items like fruits, meat, and certain plants might be illegal to import into the U.S. for agricultural reasons. Okay, so but that list actually changes all the time. So you want to make sure that you again you consult with an expert, or you do your own due diligence to know the state of the law, like today. Okay, and so in terms of if you do not want to have a lot of paperwork to deal with, then you want to, there's something called the de minimis rule, and the limit for U.S. Customs import without filing formal paperwork is generally $800. So $800. So that's the de minimis rule, the de minimis value, so to speak. And so there are some food that are not the foods that are not allowed to bring to the U.S. So foods with meat or dairy products, or those with pest risk, might not be allowed into the U.S. But again, you want to really let us know in the comment section, and we'll certainly give you the updates on rules and regulations as of the date of your question. So in closing, into this conversation, I spoke to you about importing from Mexico to the U.S. for cheap. I gave you the details, the requirements, and I spoke a little bit about the USMCA. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.